To a lot of teams, it might not matter that much to them if they finish first or second in the regular season, but I want to be a dominant team, not just a team that ends up scraping it out and barely winning playoffs.
I'm just hard pushing mid. Time isn't my way. I'm hard pushing mid.
There's pretty much no less than first place. Second place might as well be last.
Get it in right now. Shopping for greatness, destruction cannot be weakness right now. Where did they reach to take the shot from me? That they playing defense right now. Question, ain't nothing accepted but perfection and perfection. That's evident, but legacy's an exception. What's your preference? Goes together and be growing better till you make it forever. That's the only endeavor. Coming from a place where survive 25 is the only pleasure.
The expectation for TSM is pretty simple. It's just winning and being the best team.
People expect it because of our history. We've always been top 3 in North America, been to every finals. It'd be strange for us not to be that strong.
Falling for whatever that they told us. Goes forever. Getting back everything that they owe us. So no love. Somehow you became you so you conquered and the best will turn you to a bigger monster now. Get ready for the road.
The FlyQuest series is really important for us because at this point, any win matters to get first place.
That's just so you know.
Even if we do lose like one game, we have to reset our mentality and make sure we win the next 2 games. That's basically just what it means to be the best.
We are in first place right now, and people are going to be afraid of us, and I want them to be afraid of us.
TSM, stay connected. TSM makes it look easy. TSM take control of first place.
It's week 8 of the North American LCS, and there are still playoff spots up for grabs. Fans load into our studios here in Los Angeles, California to find out which teams will fight for a chance to play in Vancouver for our finals. Here you can see as we push towards the big screens, Cloud9, Smoothie and Sneaky entering the building, Envy as well, making their way to the arena. Immortals soon to follow, Pobelter Dodo here. I like that, seeing a nice little throwback to a few splits ago. Keen on stage, getting ready for his matchup today. Hello everyone, I'm James Dash Patterson, and supporting me on the analyst desk today are Mark Zimmerman and William Scarali as we take a look at some of the leaderboards here across the league. KDA, assists per game, kills per game. Lots of stuff that can still change coming into the last couple weeks of the season. How you guys doing? Recovering well from your St. Patty's Day?
Yeah, as much as I joked about it, I didn't do much. I just sat around with friends.
Yeah, go figure. What about you?
I just streamed. I live a boring life, man.
Streaming, man, connecting with people. I like it. Did you win
I
your
love
games
my
or did
fans.
you lose your games?
I won most of my games.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Playing Talon?
I was playing like AP Nasus and Cho'Gath.
Lame.
How are you winning those games? Stop talking. Don't solo queue people. Stop listening to
I
them.
feel like every time I tune into your stream, Scar, you're playing Talon. So I consider you to be my resident Talon expert, which could come in handy as we saw him picked up yesterday. I'm sure we'll talk about pick bans coming up in just a bit. Before we begin the day, let's pull up the standings. TSM are in striking distance of taking the #1 seed going into playoffs. Cloud9 hope to secure their own bye from second place, while FlyQuest look to stop the bleeding and keep their rank at 5th. But nothing is guaranteed, as even 10th place Team Envy can technically make the miracle run for a playoff spot. We'll see who can keep that dream alive with our matches today. On NALCS 1, we start with Cloud9 versus Immortals, with TSM facing FlyQuest shortly after in the Battle Arena. Over on NALCS 2, Team Envy hope to overcome a surging Team Dignitas, then Team Liquid hope to bounce back against Phoenix 1 later in the day. Now, as we go into the day, TSM have yet another opportunity to take a #1 seed in the playoffs, with Cloud9 likely to claim the second bye. But that leaves 4 more postseason slots up for grabs. Yesterday, we saw the Team Liquid have the hardest path to playoffs of any team in the final 2 weeks of the regular split. And in their first test against Team Dignitas, well, they fell short.
Yeah, and I think that is the kind of big thing. Is it was kind of disappointing the way it happened. They got crushed early game, 2 games in a row. Second game, it was a little bit closer as the game took a little bit longer for Dignitas to finish it out. But I think it's time for Team Liquid to stop thinking about playoffs and some miracle run to that and just trying to avoid relegation at this point, because that's still a possibility.
Right, refocusing for them, but they lost to Team Dignitas. Let's talk about this squad on a surge.
Yeah, actually, Team Dignitas have been looking really, really good recently. I think a lot of that is that they come into games with good game plans. Like, they're one of the first teams to pick Rengar, Lulu, and I think especially Chaser looks a lot better when they come in with a game plan in mind. And I think that Kopp has done a great job being able to draft toward the comfort of his team and create some kind of strategy to where, like, their team doesn't look like like a team that can't make plays. Like they know what they're supposed to do every game.
And the big thing kind of with that game plan was playing around Keen a lot more yesterday, which is something I think was a surprise to a lot of people. Apparently Team Liquid's and even TSM staff potentially that they're joking about get ready for the camp top, and then they came mid. So
Right, yeah.
good to see, Dignitas kind of adapting like that.
Right, and then of course we've got the conversation, kind of happening already. Dignitas looking like a top 4 team in the North American LCS. Of course, they still have some climbing to do to actually reach that, but it looks doable considering the fact that they have the second easiest schedule in the next 2 weeks.
Right, and I think if you're looking at who else might be taking their place potentially, FlyQuest was a team that has been slumping really hard, and even though you see that they only have about a 47 or like a 50% team strength of opponent schedule,
Yep.
it's still really scary because they've been way under a 4th place team, which they're tied for right now, basically.
Yeah, once again, just to explain this graphic real quick, numbers on the left side are their current rank in the North American LCS, so by position. Obviously, TSM number 1 down there. You see their remaining games to be played, that is the opponent's win percentage. So the lower they are on this table, the easier the remainder of their season is. So we're looking at teams like Team Liquid and saying, okay, with the hardest schedule, probably not likely that they climb into a playoff position. But then we're looking at, hey, Immortals, right? Immortals is sitting in that 6th place slot. A slumping FlyQuest, which is going to be attempting to stick within that playoff picture.
Right, I think Immortals has been looking actually pretty good recently. Like, I know a lot of people are like, oh, Dardoch carries his team. They live or die based on him. Well, he's been playing a lot better recently, and the best thing is their bot lane has slowly transformed into being one of the better ones in the league. And actually, it's pretty impressive watching them.
Yeah, and I think we were just touching on FlyQuest. Like, sure, their strength of schedule is easier technically than Immortals, but I think they've looked a lot worse in recent weeks, whereas like Immortals, like you said, hit or miss based off Dardoch's performance. FlyQuest has just been straight misses recently, and I mean, everyone knows, we've seen it in the first half of the season that they have that kind of potential to be one of the top teams in the league, but we haven't seen it in a while, and that's really scary.
All right, with still all the shuffling left to happen, these teams are also coming in on a new patch, which we didn't have as many changes in pick bans as maybe we expected yesterday, but that was only 2 series.
Right, I mean, coming into it, we heard a lot of people talking about how great 7.5 is going to be. Everyone was really excited about it, and then when it came time to play, it was like, oh, there's Jin Varus in the bot lane again. There's Caitlyn, Ezreal. Like, mostly what you were expecting at the positions, though it changed a little bit, but it is still the first 2 series that we saw in North America.
I actually think 7.5 is great, competitive-wise. If you look at a lot of the other older patches, why they were bad is because they had oppressive champions that are super good at their positions that ended up crowding out all the other good champions. But when you look at right now, you see Ezreal as like probably the best AD, but Ezreal doesn't have great wave clear. Like, he has abusable positions in the game where like you can pick Caitlyn to outshove him. You can pick any other champ to scale alongside him.
Yep.
And I think that it's really, really good right now to be able to play because all the positions are sort of similar to that.
Right, I mean, we're waiting to see things like Kalista and Lucian there in the bot lane, especially with the Blade of the Rune King buffs.
Yeah, and I think whenever a new patch changes, and especially when like the kind of top tier stuff gets hit, it takes a little bit for you to get totally comfortable with what your new options are. Right. So that might be why in the first week of the new patch, as exciting as it is, you might not see as much diversity as you'd want compared to maybe the 2nd or 3rd week.
I mean, also, too, we haven't seen FlyQuest, for example, play yet. There are certain teams that are more willing to do crazy things in Champ Select than, say, the teams we saw play yesterday.
Right, I especially think today, FlyQuest and Envy are going to bring out those crazy things, like the stuff that you expect to see. Yesterday, you saw Dignitas. Dignitas has played like a very rote kind of style. Like, they play the Lulu Rengar every game they can possibly get it, and you know what they're going to pick. It's just about execution for them. Whereas other teams are way more willing to experiment out of the box.
All right, well, as the teams race for the chance to play in Vancouver, send a picture to @LolEsports and show us how you're supporting your favorite teams. Here are some of the ones you sent to us yesterday. Make sure to send us your spectating setup using the hashtag HowILCS, and we'll share them all during the, not all of them, that was a bad promise. We'll show them all weekend long, not all of them.
I mean, if you say so, James, not gonna get much time on the analyst.
Right, exactly, there will be no discussion other than that, but it's time to send it over to the casters to get the matches underway.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dash. Hello, I'm Julian Petrutamka, and serving for this cast alongside me is Aiden Zyrene Moon. We're getting ready for our first series as Team Envy takes on Team Dignitas. Dignitas hoping to extend a 3-match win streak as their playoff chances become brighter and brighter.
Yeah, and this team has been looking better and better since they had that coaching staff change and brought in Cop. Dignitas have gone 5-2, only dropping matches to TSM, and Phoenix won in the second half of the split. So those are the teams that are in 1st and 3rd right now. So right now it's looking really good, and a huge point in improvement here, aside from the coaching staff, has been that mid lane, Keen. He's getting more solo kills in the last 2 weeks than the 5 weeks before that. There's a huge improvement here, but one person that I think does deserve a lot of credit for that is Chaser, who had some explosive games yesterday against Team Liquid. him and Someday have been grouping up and going mid and getting Keen an early kill, which leads to a lot of those solo kills later.
And he will be going against Envy's own explosive jungler in Lyra, who has been a standout performer despite the team's rough season.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you look at the stats because Lyra has consistently been able to get leads in the jungle. Lyra has the second highest gold difference at 15 minutes among all junglers at 291 and goes on to best his opponents today, especially Chaser I'm talking about across the Rift, in most aggressive jungling categories. You can see their kill participation, KDA, etc. Lyra seems to definitely build the snowball for Envy, but the big problem is that that early game doesn't turn into these gigantic leads for their solo laners that help them blow the game wide open. So a loss here for Envy, if that doesn't happen again, would actually bump them out of playoffs. And this game is do or die for this 10th place team.
Yeah, they need to make an absolutely miracle run. But despite the disparities in the standings, Apollo feels his squad has plenty in common with Team Dignitas.
I think Team Dignitas, it felt like they were almost in the same boat as us. You know, they had the 3 Koreans and they're still working through communication issues, it seemed, but they've just been performing better than us. And I think it has to do with their stage performance as well. Like, just scrimming them, it seems like they're just getting better on stage than we are. And I don't really think that's an excuse or anything. That's just what's happening. And yeah, I think we match up against them nicely. We have the same, the trio. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
And if you think back to last split, Laud, the AD carry for Dignitas, was on Envy, and he was in the same scenario as Apollo, but it seems like the environment, the 3 Koreans on top, the 2 English speakers on bottom for both of these teams, it's kind of like big brother, little brother here. Yeah. Dignitas seem to figure it out. They seem to get that communication up, and that's what Kopp, the coach, has been lauded with most, is that the communication has changed on this team. People who weren't speaking before, being a little bit more introverted like Keen, are now speaking up. The Koreans have actually taken a lot of English lessons and they're communicating in English mid-game. So it's really cool to see that this Dignitas didn't fall prey to a lot of the same problems that are plaguing Envy.
It's certainly been looking good so far. And with that, it's time to get into the starting lineups. On the blue side, it's Little Brother. It's Team Envy. In the top lane, it's Seraph. The jungler Lyra, mid lane Ninja, bot lane Apollo, the support Hakuo, and coach Dylan Falco.
Yep, and loading up on the red side is going to be Team Dignitas. In the top lane, it's going to be Someday. The jungle, it's going to be Chaser with those really creative routes early that we've been seeing from him. Mid lane, it's going to be Keen, who's been looking better and better. The bot lane, consistent as ever with Laud. And special, and Coach Kopp, changing the team around.
Yeah, the process himself has been working for Dignitas, who are on that upward trend moving towards playoffs. An excellent time for any team to sort of pick things up. And for Dig, they'll be looking to continue their success, keep moving forward. Like you mentioned on the MV side, just win out here and see what happens. Like, they really have nothing to lose at this point.
Yeah, when I look at Envy's stats, they are the second best early game team in the whole league. Number 1 is still Echo Fox, surprisingly. And these are teams that are in the bottom of the standings and not in playoff position just yet. So Envy, they have these early leads. They're averaging about 440 gold up over their opponents at 15 minutes, which means way more often than not, they have leads. They have large leads, but it's just not actually converting that lead into endgame shot calling, into communication, which is going to help them end the game.
Well, we'll see what happens here in our champ select for game number 1. Because I think Envy have definitely shown they come prepared to a lot of these games, and when they play their picks, they look a lot more comfortable. Rengar, the first ban there on the Envy side, but Dignitas, I think, also flourishing in this environment as well. So we'll see what they have in store for their first few bans.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with Scar on this one. With the pick ban now has been freed up. You don't have to ban LeBlanc. You don't have to ban Varus. These champions are still playable, but they're not that S tier. The only real kind of S tier champions that I would consider right now on my own personal tier list are Lulu and possibly Graves, because in their position, there really isn't a match for them. Ezreal also jumps up, but like Skara said, there are counters. Shen is a very common ban right now, but there are counters to him like Gangplank, etc. if you want to play them.
Well, there's Talon and Jace for Dignitas, so Ninja being targeted here over on Envy's side. It's junglers, though, for Envy as they take out Chase's Rengar and his Graves, so 2 strong junglers taken out as well.
2 early game junglers that he has had unique paths with, where he can gank at about 2 minutes and 40 seconds, and also the Graves is interesting because this is one that he can do one camp and just show up after doing a red buff or something, so the ganks can get pretty cheesy. He's done it already with Lee Sin as well, so I assume that's the next jungler down the tier list alongside Elise for Chaser.
Well, interestingly, Renekton and Rumble are actually going to get banned here, so 2 of the premier top laners leaves Camille open for Seraph.
Yeah, I was about to say, as soon as you see the Renekton and Seraph banned it, you have to say he's going for Camille. That should have been the next ban, but I think that they're saying we don't want to play against your Rumble as much as we want to play against your Camille.
Well, there's maybe a Lulu now for Dignitas, so certainly Envy setting up a trade that is tricky to navigate in the early stages of this draft. Kind of wonder what Dig's second pick will be as well. You kind of mentioned that maybe Lee Sin comes out here because there is a big champion for both of these junglers, but looks like Dig are going to start it off simply here and just take away Lulu for pick number 1.
Yeah, I like the Lulu. I think it's something that is pretty uncounterable right now. Malzahar is the other support that is banned away quite frequently, but Lulu is a counter to him during the lane phase. So now they could grab their AD carry and go with a really oppressive lane. They could grab a Caitlyn, they could grab an Ezreal. There's a lot on the table, but like I said earlier, with jungle pinched, Lee Sin I think is what he goes for.
Yeah, they can wait. I mean, Lod's probably happy to play whatever AD carry falls through. Actually, a Caitlyn pickup here for Apollo. Gonna pair it with the Karma, so a good duo lane there for Envy, but Dignitas starting off well with Lulu, Lee Sin. We'll see if they want to take something like the Ezreal here, or maybe a different AD carry, or if they match somewhere else. And even steal away a pick. There's Echo locked in for Dignitas.
That's a fast pickup there as well. And now if they start banning away mid laners, then you think it's definitely that. If they start banning away the jungle more and pinching that, then you might assume it's a flex here for someday. It could go top lane. And it's going to be really interesting as this unfolds. I'll talk a little bit about the Karma. The Karma is kind of the neutral matchup up against the Lulu. You still get bullied, you still get pushed in, but doesn't feel as good as actually playing the Lulu herself. She brings so much defensive utility. She helps you shove the wave, and her picks that got buffed with the auto attacks and like scaling up much smoother per level just adds so much damage throughout all stages of the game for her.
Yep, and there's the Ezreal burn for Envy, so I do like that in their second phase, but Dignitas are just hammering Lyra's champion pool here. They already took Lee Sin. Envy decided not to take a jungler in first phase, with already 2 being banned away by themselves. Now Elise gets banned as well. Like, Lyra is looking at champion number 5, probably 6, given that they might ban away another one, although they take Ahri instead, so...
The Ahri ban away here. A little interesting, because, yeah, they could have gone for another pinch in that pool. Varus being banned away, so Jhin on the table, Kog'Maw on the table, which I actually think could come through. Kalista, Lucian, also both great picks. But against the Caitlyn, you don't really want to bust out the Kalista.
No, I'm not massively into Jhin with a Lulu, but I mean, it is playable, certainly.
Yeah.
There's not as much synergy, but we'll see what happens. Looks like Lot is just going to take it.
Yeah, it's mostly what do we have to engage, and is it reliable? So Ashe, I think, is also a really good pick here as well. I actually think maybe the Ashe is a preferred pick.
Well, always tough because Caitlyn is such a good laner and Karma's a super solid laning support. So it was going to be Jhin instead for Dignitas, certainly keeping it more to what they know here. See what Envy have prepared for their final 2 picks of the draft, though. Lyra, like we mentioned, is going far down on his champion pool, so we'll see if he digs out something spicy or if he just goes back to Rek'Sai.
The Rek'Sai, we're seeing this pop up more and more. Rek'Sai, Gragas, 2 tank junglers that are relatively back in the meta once the top has been shaved off of the cream, and you have these lower tier type champions. So I think that this is really cool that we're seeing it, because Kha'Zix also was something that was on the table, but he's saying our tank is not the top laner right now. Seraph cannot really start these fights off. He's a diver. I need to be a more primary engage alongside the Karma. And I like that as well. That means that Karma's... Actually, no, we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
We don't know. I actually think it's a Malzahar mid into Echo. I've gone around some teams and like talked to them about this where Malzahar was being played support and Echo was just popping up as like a Syndra counter and people were playing it a whole bunch with TP. Some teams were flexing the Malzahar to mid so that you could ulti him, prevent the snapback of his ultimate, and kill him during that time with a silence as well.
Might be a double flex, though. I think you're on the money with the Echo for someday, because there's the Azir locked in for Dignitas. So now some guessing game's going to have to be played, at least for Dignitas versus the Envy side. But, I mean, Keen's going to get probably a fine matchup for him either way, with whatever pick it ends up being.
Yep.
Someday he's going to get Echo here.
This is actually super clever. The double flex here. Dignitas coming in, Coach Cop, man, with the flexes. Keen can pretty much play anything. But yeah, I hinted at, could be an Echo top for someday. He's played it before. But Envy said, all right, we're assuming it's an Echo mid. Flex the Malzahar to there. And the Azir is now the matchup. We'll see. They get until 20 seconds to swap it around, and then we'll know where the Karma's going and where it is going.
Yeah, all right. Well, I think that makes sense. Even if you originally wanted to play Malzahar mid, I don't think you can afford to do it against Azir. So looks like Ninja will be taking Karma. Hakuo back on Malzahar. I mean, Envy did everything they could there to try and set up those lanes, and unfortunately for them, they didn't get last pick. So there was only so much they could account for. Really interesting Game 1 draft here between the two sides. And I think, again, just a good representation of how open patch 7.5 is. I mean, super clever drafting there from Cop, really using the flexibility of his players, particularly his mid laner. This will be fun. Kind of curious to see what happens here, because a lot of these picks we haven't seen in quite a while.
Yep, and seeing the Karma mid, something we haven't seen, I believe, this split. And Ninja was somebody who would flex it even last split, and it wasn't very effective for him. He would play the Karma mid, he's not dealing a lot of damage, and then it relies on Seraph and now Apollo to actually bring a ton of that damage to the table.
Let me tell you, Ninja has a very, very unique champion pool, so we'll have to see exactly how it does, but we are going to get ourselves onto Summoner's Rift relatively shortly for Envy versus Dignitas, game number 1. A spicy 7.5 draft to start things off. So
I know you love those drafts. This is one that
I really do.
You can go back and forth on because the flexes here, we don't see him as much, especially with these picks like Malzahar, Karma, and even the Echo. But it was really cool because now Keen gets a good matchup for himself in the mid lane or dissuades a matchup that would have been unfavorable for the Echo. So he kind of keeps himself safe.
Well, little things are cool here as well. I mean, hyper carry for Apollo should be nice, and we can kind of use the support of the Karma to help Apollo in the mid to late game. But, you know, Lord playing more of a spellcaster AD, we got Keen instead can kind of get the damage involved. So lots of cool stuff going on, but it's going to be important how these teams play. Dignitas have been on a tear recently as far as their players gone. Envy, explosive early games, not always converting their leads, but we'll see if they can A, get a lead, and then if they get one, if they can ride it all the way home for game 1.
And looking across the masteries here, Deathfire Touch for the Karma for Ninja, and then Lod Silver using the nerf Deathfire Touch, which I think is fine. But then someday with the Thunderlord's Decree top lane on Echo, it's a possibility that he's going AP Echo.
We'll have to find out here. See just what Someday wants to build. Of course, Echo has been very flexible as a champion. Top lane, jungle, mid lane are all places he's been, and the builds are pretty flexible there as well. So I imagine someday, if there's some new hotness going on in the Echo top lane builds, he's got that on, got that ready.
Yeah, and there's always that kind of worry in your head as somebody like Seraph who's playing the Camille, where how much have you played this matchup in particular? Because Camille, rather matchup dependent in terms of if there's something really aggressive that shuts her down, like a Renekton, and that gets in her face, like a Darius, then she has a really bad time. Even Trindamir's up there in terms of the tier list of what really smashes her.
Look at this leash though from Hakuo. He almost took the red buff out by himself with the Voidlings, and Lyra started Raptors. Super greedy jungle start here for Lyra, but he's supremely far ahead now.
Yeah, basically they're saying that we're going to make sure that we take some time away from Hakuho, but give it to Lyra, and now Lyra doesn't get to invade blue or anything like that. He's going to think that they think he's going to their blue. And you can see here, Lod, Special will check the blue. He's not there. Now Chaser's going to run over to that side, and now Lyra's going to go up. Because he knew he was spotted by that ward.
Yep, everyone's got word from requisite information now. Some good early warding in general for both these sides as Chaser will make sure he gets his blue. Lyra will be delayed, so we're going to even out that early leash from MV. But really creative stuff there. Again, teams mixing it up in the early levels.
Super interesting. But that also means that the bottom lane gets to hit level 2 first. So Hakuho, even though he leashed, then he just gets control of the wave because Special and Lod had to go check the blue or else they get triple buffed.
Really like it there, but again, going to keep the 2v2 in their favor for a little while longer. Special still level 1 here. You can see the Voidling doing damage to that Lulu. Lulu, again, just fine in so many of these spots, but does need to get the wave pushing in. Right now, Dignitas forced to play back a little as Hakuo. Every chance he gets, he's walking up and getting aggressive.
Yeah, I actually think Hakuo has been a pretty overlooked player for Envy. I think in terms of consistency and performances, I think Apollo is very solid. But I think like Hakuo has actually won them a few games on Zyra by himself.
Someday and Seraph doing battle. Good trade there from Someday, but Seraph kind of got off to an early lead. Important to note that Apollo has also gone Warlord's Bloodlust, so we'll see that new and improved mastery, or new and changed mastery, I suppose. No, still waiting to see if it's an improvement.
Scales really hard. It starts at 1%, 2%, 3%. Chaser, though, behind, they've spotted him now.
All right, what's he going to go for? Especially going to flash in. Whimsy up, Apollo snares down as well. Chaser looking to tag on, but didn't quite let it. Now Chaser is taking too much damage. The Voidlings give Hakuo first blood, and they're rapidly moving towards Special. Special needs to keep running. Apollo will shoot them if he gets a chance.
Man, first blood there going over to Hakuo. I was just saying, this guy actually wins them a few games. I've loved his Zyra ultis. I've loved the damaging supports for him. Whenever he's playing like a Malzahar or a Zyra, I think he looks like one of the best players on this team alongside Lyra in terms of high-level consistency. It's just the rest of their solo lanes getting it together and making sure that they can carry and not fall behind.
Great first blood there from Envy, turning around that gank. Someday teleports back though. Seraph could get stunned here, gets himself out from under the parallel convergence, and now Lyra is moving up for some pressure.
Yep, clearing out the wave, or assisting Seraph in clearing out the wave so that he can back and match the teleport and may not even have to use his own, depending on the wave clear of the Echo.
see what happens here, but Sunday's going to let the wave push in. And Lod's still low here in the 2v2. No one's gone back yet. We already did have that kill go over onto Chaser, who's actually back in the bottom lane, hoping things go a little different, perhaps.
Yeah, he got the flash and the heal out of Apollo, so I assume he goes for almost a repeat route here, and he may come through the same way, because if you can land a slow or anything onto this guy, gets rooted there, now is forced to flash away, and then Chaser, oh, they're so fast when that E is on somebody. It gives them extra movement speed, but Chaser spotted out.
Ninja may be caught, actually going to snare up Chaser, gets himself over to the wall, but Hakuo roaming in as well. Flash forward from Ninja, flash and heal burn for Chaser and Kane.
Went aggressive there, and they actually checked it. Ninja looks like he put a ward over the wall to check the Raptors. Yeah. And now Lyra's on kind of like assistant duty to try and just help people clear their waves and get back timers that aren't awful.
Yeah, it hasn't been amazing for the solo laners so far. I mean, Ninja down a little in CS, but not quite 10 just yet. Seraph is even, but he had to walk his way back in and get Lyra to that lane to try and assist from Sunday's early TP. So again, Lyra just making sure his solo lane stay afloat. And I mean, bottom lane's clearly doing very well, so yeah, confidence there that they can continue as well.
Yeah, have themselves a good matchup in the AD carry role with the Caitlyn, but Hakuo definitely came out above and made sure that that kill went over. Good job from him. But Seraph, yeah, he didn't have to blow the TP, and that was kind of what he got from Lyra's time, is that now they have a teleport advantage on the top side. Seraph, he has teleport locations, but the question is, how much is he going to be able to do with that? I feel like it's kind of an odd build. Went for the crystal components there of Trinity Force. No extra damage.
Oh, Someday does get the stun, actually. Seraph can't quite hookshot to the wall in time. But again, just going to swipe back, get some health back as Chaser looking towards this top half.
Well, that's a great ward there over the wall there to spot Chaser. So Lyra knows Chaser's coming in. And now they're all diving, but it's a level 6 Echo.
Yeah, Chaser's going to be still. Someday actually going to dive his way back in, but going to try and fight for it. Seraph wants Chaser, but there's Someday, gets the ulti down. The burst lands on the Seraph and Lyra, but now going to run it under the turret. Ninja here to protect Seraph as Someday might be a little too far forward.
Here comes Keen.
Keen rotating in. There's also a Lulu there for special. Keen gets the ult back, finds both of them with a scoop. Now Seraph going down to Chaser, and now Ninja's caught out of position. Chaser barely lives as he safeguards away, and now Ninja's getting chased down. Keen again gets himself a kill. Xpecial's here to try and seal the third as Lyra flashes away.
Yeah, they're sacking bottom lane. Xpecial's actually going for a gigantic roam, walking all the way up, but this is turret damage that they give up for these kills here. Now Envy, bit behind in gold, but hold on.
Oh, Someday again snaps over to Lyra. Lyra tunnels out to safety, and Someday gonna try and collapse that down, making sure that Lyra doesn't get anything else out of his jungle.
Yeah, the level 6 had been there for Someday, so they tried to actually kill Chaser Someday before the collapse happened, but it didn't work out. And this bottom lane turret, I think, might go down for Envy.
Have to watch potential experience from Hakuo. There's the first turret going over, so that bottom lane that already had a lead, Apollo's 20 CS ahead and counting, and also got first turret gold. So,
brutal.
I mean, Lod understandably is behind after the gank from Chaser didn't go well, and Xpecial left a lane to help topside, but bottom lane looking good for Envy, and the top side still a struggle, I'll say, between the two.
Yeah, the fact that they had turned around that gank down bottom and killed Chaser was huge, because I believe it gave over buffs as well, and then it just ends up being this gigantic fiesta where they're able to push in over and over and over again. And now they have the turret because Xpecial had to roam. Well, he didn't actually have to roam. He decided he wanted to roam in case. It ended up being a useless roam, but he felt like his time in lane wasn't going to be worth as much.
And which may have been fair, but Xpecial is woefully behind in this game. He's level 4 as I watch this exchange again. Lyra and Chaser starting things off, but Someday already being 6 makes this really tricky.
Yeah, if you had a level 6 on your Camille at this point, it's a different fight, but doesn't end up that way. And now Seraph runs to the right instead of the left. Maybe he would have been able to pick up Chaser, but what he's doing is he's running to Ninja, who is actually going for a loop-de-loop. He's going all the way around. And I actually feel like that's a bit of a miscommunication there and a misplay from the solo laners of Envy. Chaser was on the left side, and you had routes to get there and try to actually cut him off.
Yeah, super solid run from Keen, though. Secures himself the double pushback with the ultimate and gets him the kills. As a result, he's now gifted the blue buff over. Well, you can see that damage from Ninja really chunking out King with the Mantra Qs. That fire touch going to help there as well. But King just playing at a distance, keeping the soldiers up and making sure he doesn't fall behind.
Now he has so much attack speed, it becomes quite easy to clear these waves out. Long lane bottom, though, and you have to be a little bit scared if you're Dignitas on this bottom side of the map.
I mean, Lod knows he cannot go anywhere where he can't see because Hakuo with the flash and the ultimate That's an easy kill. And again, the Lulu's still level 4, so Envy have a lot of good targets here in the bottom lane.
Yeah, because they lost the bottom lane so hard.
Oh, Kane, so smooth! Kicks Ninja back in there from Chaser, tag over with a resonating strike, and Dignitas get another play in mid.
I'm loving this trident that I'm seeing from Dignitas, where someday will come down from the top, Chaser will come down from the other direction, from the bottom side of the map, and then Keen will set up the play. They do this so consistently now. It used to be Chaser would like gank top lane, incredibly obvious ganks over and over again for Someday, but now it seems like they're trusting Keen a lot more, that they're empowering him, and they're actually giving him ganks and bringing their focus to that lane.
And you know what? Back in the early summer of 2016, where Dignitas were at a different name but very similar looking players, that was also the best looking moments for Apex, when the top half was able to play together and use the three of them to pull off miraculous looking plays. So good to see Dignitas bringing that over, and Keen's been playing amazingly, and it's plays like this that help.
Yeah, he's half HP, so Ninja feels like he's okay, but the Shurima shuffle into Chaser is perfect. And you could also see that if he had flashed up, or if there was an escape route for Ninja, it's covered by Someday, who's already roaming.
Really good converge there on the mid lane, as Lyra kind of trying to put out fires across the map. I mean, bottom lane's still looking good, so they do want to press that advantage if they can. 30 CS ahead for Apollo is a disgusting lead at 11 minutes.
Yeah, it'll be a challenge here as well, because Apollo isn't really that hyper carry for the team. It's mostly, when I think about Envy, I think about the solo laners and the inconsistency, Lyra getting them off the ground. I think about how Hakuho is a good player in this team, and doesn't really get to shine as much as he should. But Apollo is like that rock. He's that consistent force. But so is Laud. And so I don't consider these like X-Factor players where they have clutch factor to them, whereas Keen, Chaser, Someday, they're going to have to, they actually have potential to go off to have that X-Factor, whereas it's kind of that versus Apollo's lead right now.
Well, Hakuho just clearing out vision, did get spotted, so the potential gank on mid is not going to happen. Seraph roamed down, he had his ultimate ready, waiting in the Raptor pit to try and tower dive Keen. Instead, Envy will pull off from the play. Lod will join the wave that's finally been pushed back towards him and try and catch up on CS. This is a long lane for Dignitas to try and deal with here in the bottom lane.
Yeah, so they put so much vision in their jungle, make sure it's there still. And that's how you kind of circumvent the issue of not having a bottom lane turret, is you just put so much in terms of vision down in this area that a sweeper pre-level 9 isn't going to do you any good here.
Lyra is going to spot the ward that just got put down. Not quite able to take it out, unfortunately for him. Going to have to wait for another sweeper to come back off cooldown. There is a Cloud Drake that the teams could get here. Envy have full control of this side of the map, but not really rushing down for that one. Instead, maybe they'll rotate to a different lane, try and siege up in mid lane perhaps. Or maybe Apollo's just waiting for an item breakpoint. There's Someday and Seraph doing battle, but Seraph zips away out from under the parallel convergence, and Envy, I think, have decided that, you know what, we've made enough space, let's take this Drake.
Yeah, they have that lead still, even though the kills are in favor of Dignitas. It's that bottom lane turret, it's that extra advantage in the CS that they've gotten on Apollo, and it's enough to make up for the kills that have been going over and Ninja's deficit in mid.
You know what, it's about 1,000 gold up because Envy take that Drake. That's almost all of Apollo's lead over Lod, so a lot's going to get put into this AD carry early. We'll have to see if Apollo can translate his consistency into mid-late game team fight success.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for, is if Apollo can actually carry a game and hard carry a game. Because characteristically, I feel like he's the guy who's in the back line just assisting, and the kind of the taboo term of cleanup AD carry, which is usually used negatively, or people assume it's negative, but it just means he has really good positioning. He's not the aggressive positioning carry, though. He's not the one that flashes forward to finish the kills when he has a lead and carry a game. So if Apollo can start stepping up, and this will be a great game for him to do so, Envy, they're looking to not be completely out of playoffs, and this is the game to do it and stop Dig.
Certainly have to continue making this run, and this early game has gone quite well for them. You can see Keen is acutely aware of the attention he's been getting, though. First item, QSS. Didn't finish his stinger, didn't go for the Nashes, just has Berserker Greaves, double Dorans, and that QSS to make sure Hakuho can't lock him down. But he's still got a CS lead. He knows he has to play safe here, and I think Envy might be roaming towards the mid lane and trying to siege down with this Caitlyn.
Yeah, Envy have always struggled to close games out to make sure that they get turret after turret. They've gotten the first turret. You can see Apollo went for more wave clear with maxing Q, the built over Peacemaker, so he doesn't actually have enough traps at level 9 to continually trap down a lane and get in a siege position. He'll have to wait until about level 12 or 13 before he's really in a situation to group up mid or even lane swap to top and siege a turret down that way.
He's also got shopping to do as well. He's been farming a lot in this bottom lane. You can see almost 2,600 gold down. So I think he's finally going to go back. I imagine Hurricane is his next purchase here. So that's a big point of power for him as well.
Yep, Hurricane for him, Athene's Unholy Grail for Ninja. And so we're seeing a little utility here. I think Ninja might also be going for an Ardent Sensor in his future. So we'll see. He's mostly going to be the buff the Apollo.
Makes sense. I mean, Apollo certainly set up to succeed in this game, both in the composition they've drafted at Champ Select and how the early game has gone out. Seraph also roaming down. Actually might have a spot here on Sakeen. Doesn't go in for it. Oh, swipes him down, cancels the recall, but doesn't commit with the ultimate.
That's all he wanted. And now that they have the attack speed and the wave clear, they're just going to shove top in. And Hakuo?
Yeah, locks down Someday. Apollo is just going to try and shoot him. Oh, that stun landed. Actually canceled the ultimate early, but Someday knows he can't fight 2v2, and even Lyra's on the way top as well.
Yeah, but Someday is AP, so when he throws out the Q, he will deal a lot of damage to this wave, and the threat of the dive of having the Malzahar ultimate is gone, so now he's just going to call some people up the top lane. Special's going to rush up there. It'll be a 3-on-3, pending what happens.
Decent looking siege here started for Envy, but they're going to have to play it a little bit slowly. Special also roaming up as Chaser behind his top lane and making sure this tower stays up for as long as possible. This is going to give Seraph room to farm as the wave's pushing all the way down to him, so his Trendy Force should come up in the next few minutes. And I do like how Envy have kind of cascaded farm from the advantage they've got to bottom lane, and they're kind of getting everywhere where they want to be in that mid game. It's not an explosive Envy early game lead, but they're setting themselves up well to have a really strong mid game.
Yeah, and I like what Envy are doing here, like you're saying. They've actually taken that farm advantage. It's now mounted in an item. They put their AD carry up top in a matchup that was winning for them already, and now Dignitas have to put Lod back up there, and now it's back to this where they will slowly get this turret, and you'll have the bottom laners, now the bottom of the map, now be your top laners.
Good ult there from Apollo, just poking Lod down, knowing that Jin really can't heal much of that back up. Lyra again posturing aggressively into Dignitas' jungle, but just making sure he has vision around. This is one of the things Rek'Sai is excellent at, is covering for your team when you're moving between large patches of Fog of War.
Speaking of large patches of Fog of War, Someday is now just coasting through the bottom side. He's going to go mid now and just wait for a moment. Ninja's getting the blue buff handed off to him, so Keen will show up. Someday will be off on the side. There's a long lane bottom, so Someday doesn't have to go bottom for a while because there's no threat on any turret until that tier 2. And this may be a gank in the mid. Chaser's off on the top side of it. This might be the Trident.
Certainly a good attempt, but again, Envy continue to hammer down this top outer turret. Lodnik Special doing a good job clearing that out as soon as they can. So this siege might take a while for Envy, and there's the collapse. Keen
into the stun.
Back. Ninja into the stun. Beautifully played, and Ninja just dies to Someday.
And this is just so scary because I'm calling it the Trident over and over again because they saw Chaser clearing a pink ward on the top side. So Ninja naturally, right play a little bit towards the bottom side. Someday stayed in that bush for so long, and all that happened bottom was Seraph gets some farm. He doesn't lose much in terms of CS, and now Someday picks up that wave after setting up mid more.
Like you said, it's a big wave being bounced back and forth, so Someday had more than enough time to make that play. Excellent awareness from a top-level player. These are the sorts of things that we expect from a player of Someday's caliber, but are much more invisible than just, hey, he's really good mechanically.
Yeah, I was watching yesterday when they got the double kill mid. Someday had the chance to be a god and like Gragas R into a Q that was already placed. He did it, but he didn't pop his Q. He let Keen get the kill. They're really trying to set up people to carry. It seems like a team effort, and that's what you really like to see from superstar players like Someday, is that they come over, maybe they don't respect their laners as much or think they're a better player and their ego gets to them, but that doesn't seem to be what's going on with him. Ninja's playing to the bottom side and wanting to ward it because he saw Chaser on top, but he's getting ganked from the bottom side.
I mean, Ninja just couldn't do anything there.
Yep. They're absolutely great play there from both Keen and Someday. And I think Chaser with the setup, just the mental game there, he doesn't get an assist or anything, but it definitely is something that put Ninja in that position.
Well, good stuff there from Dig again, continuing to find kills in this game. Still down by about 500 gold, but looks like the siege has been called off there for Envy. Infinity Edge almost done for Apollo, but needs a little more work before it's done. And looks like they're actually collapsing back for an Infernal Drake. So now that we've had a buff respawn, Envy going to make sure they're the one first in this position. And this could be our first major team fight.
Yeah, Trinity Force for Seraph, but QSS now for Someday in the top lane. So locking people down, your options are getting more and more limited here, especially since it's kind of easy to point and click and shut down this Malzahar as a Lulu. So right now, their targets are kind of Chaser jumping in and Lod. I don't know how much you actually want to go for the Lulu. You could, but I think it's a little risky to do so. You'll get just bopped by everybody else.
And Lot, of course, can play back fairly safely. If he gets caught, he's dead instantly.
And the target gets wild growth, so Lulu may just be your best option. It's still not a very good one.
Well, it's smart from Team Dignitas, itemizing to kind of shut down the early advantages that Hakuo and Apollo were able to build.
And because they got early advantages, they get to build that QSS and kind of be like, okay, I'm 1-0-3. My lane opponent is 0-3-0. This QSS is actually just taking a slot in my inventory. It's not actually burdening my build in terms of tempo versus my opponent.
Yeah, Dignitas, I think, very aware of how fast or slow they could play this game and adjusted accordingly. As Apollo just clearing out Raptors. He's close to Infinity Edge, but it will not be in time for this fight unless Envy can reset the map. I mean, Ninja has finished his Ardent Sensor as well, so a lot of strength here for Envy, and they're just going to force onto this Drake and force Dignitas to come to them.
Yep. Seraph hasn't started his TP yet. They're going to give up the Infernal for top lane push.
Here comes Seraph. They're going to try for it now. Might be a little too late, though. Dig actually already gets it. Now Someday going to QSS off the Nethergrass. Chaser gets dove in. Seraph tries to lock them all in, but he's taking a little too much damage as Someday able to zone out the backline. Now Jin going to try into the ultimate and looks for Lyra. Last shot's good as the DFT burns him down and Seraph gets out of the way. Someday eating damage, but it's just not enough. And now Keen is going to try and complete the rest of it, but he's going to get snared up by the Karma here. Could be a little too much from Dig, but Ninja getting fire returned onto him, and it's just one kill on the Drake, but it went to Dignitas.
Oh, it's so hard to play against this Dig composition at this point in the game. They have the Lulu to shut down a diver, and then they have the Azir. They have Keen to just block people off and actually deal so much damage. So once you engage, there's a lot of disengage and resetting the fight. And then you have to wait for like your Rek'Sai tunnel cooldown, your Camille E, if you don't have that swift pickup. And you can see here, I feel like at that point, you just get top turret, you go for the gold, Seraph goes in onto Chaser, not really the premier target you want, and then the ultimate comes through, but then he gets whimsied, and on the right side of the fight, Someday gets exhausted, doesn't matter, he's just spending that whole time there, and that Deathfire Touch will pick him up. Then there's one more shot left in the chamber there, and it chunks out Someday, or chunks out Seraph, but that was a fight that Apollo, he's doing enough damage now with that double item spike, that could have been a fight that he takes over.
Yep, just didn't have it. Just was still farming for the gold for that IE, needed about 300 more.
Very close, yeah.
It just wasn't enough. Really nice timing there from Dignitas. They managed to secure the Infernal. That could have been a Drake that MB valued highly, given how much investment they have in this Caitlyn to carry for them. But looks like that turret's going to eventually go down, so the overall trade will favor MB on the gold side, although maybe Lodnik Special can save this. Looks like MB are bringing a few more up just to make sure it dies. And Lod is eating so much damage from Apollo.
Yep. He's not putting any traps down either. I wonder what his setup is right now in terms of where they are, because he should be setting up on that turret to just siege it down.
Well, it looks like MB will stick around long enough to make sure it dies. Someday again continuing to bounce between the long lane bot and around the midsection. That does give Sarah plenty of free time, but Kane actually opening up onto this mid lane turret should be able to take it down. Nash's Tooth enough attack speed, so it will be a turret trade overall. Dignitas buy enough time to trade turrets instead of just giving one away.
Dignitas in a really good spot here. And I know that the gold is so close, but Envy have a lead. It's still not the lead that you really want in this game. You're playing up against an Echo that's building primarily AP. You're going up against an Azir. And your advantage is on your Caitlyn, mostly via CS, whereas those two solo laners of the enemy team on Dignitas, they have a decent amount of gold from kills.
Great stun here from Sunday, but Seraph still fighting. QSS off from Someday. Wanted to get, I believe, the Q debuff off him. Not quite sure what he was looking for, but Seraph gets out instead. Someday, I mean, he's got his ultimate, so he's pretty safe in most 1v1s, even if Seraph is a bit stronger at this point. But Envy are continuing on the siege train here. Still looking for this tier 2 turret in top lane. Might be a little too tricky to bust through Keen, given how good Azir is at protecting his turrets.
Yeah, I think. Oh.
All right, we're okay.
Hakuo?
Oh no! Not okay at all! Baron on the assist there as Kane able to get the kill. I thought Melzahal was going to be okay. I was very wrong.
No, there's so much damage here in just such long range. Like, the way you play against a composition like Diggs is you have to be swift. Your engage has to be very good. It has to hit true. So you have to have, like, Lyra go in, Hakuo hit somebody at the same time as Seraph is diving in and cause a lot of chaos. because there's so many resets. The Lulu ultimate, the Lulu Whimsy, you have the Lee Sin kickback, you have the Azir wall. It's just so difficult to actually do anything against this team, but it has to be fast. You have to hit them hard and as a coordinated unit, and that's why it's just the execution ceiling on Envy's team versus Diggs is very high.
Yeah, and you can see Lod now with all this free time in top lane might even get the turret if no one else comes to help him. In fact, I think Dig going to be first to the punch here to try and continue grabbing himself some objectives. I mean, Lod's getting a big wave pushed in here, and this turret's got almost no health left. Just going to reload. Minion should help him out here, and that's going to be a turret for Dignitas, evening up that structure score.
And you have to wonder for Envy, what the calls were mid-game when they had this Caitlyn, who I think is honestly one of the best people to have an early gold lead on. Oh, Hakuo just gets knocked up. He actually walked back onto the blast cone. And yeah, right through the Baron.
Sneaky soldier.
Woo. Good play by Keen.
I mean, Keen's had an incredible set of games recently, but this one is no exception.
Yeah, Hakuo really didn't have a reason to walk up at all. And Blast Cone's not dead at that point, so it's not a misclick or anything. Nope.
Doesn't work out regardless. And Dignitas evening the game back up. They're even in Drakes, they're even in turrets. And even in actually slightly ahead in gold there as well. We'll have a Mountain Drake up in a minute, so maybe Envy can find the team fight that I think they've been looking for, that they've been building towards for the last 25 minutes. I mean, Apollo probably won't have his third item completed, but he's now got 2.5 with that Zeal being a really strong component. So Envy can certainly win fights, but they have to set them up correctly.
Yeah, good news for Apollo in this game is he doesn't really have to buy a Last Whisper until I would say 4th item, and you just get the 45% bonus penetration. You sit on that, and that's it. So his build isn't really attacked in any regard, and in fact he has Ninja building for him and for assistance. But we're waiting for Ninja's 3rd item, and I feel like that's when Envy will be more comfortable in this game, when they have that needlessly large rod item that will make it so Ninja isn't just a buffer, but he's also a damage dealer.
Camille does so much true damage though.
It's that 2-item spike and enough levels because you actually convert the Trinity Force Spellblade proc into true damage based on your level. So when you hit level 100, or sorry, level 18, it's 100%. It's the full value. Level 100, say nerf.
Well, Seraph just going to take down this turret. Sunday cannot tussle right now. So Envy going to keep this pressure on. Looks like they'll fall back towards the Drake, actually. Sunday does have TP ready. Envy need to be decisive here. They're going to start up the Mountain Drake.
They have their wall of traps on the left side, so it's a good setup for them. Nobody can really soak traps on Dignitas. Seraph looking for a flank.
Trying to cut them off, I think.
Make sure Chaser can't get in.
Yeah, Sunday's not in the fight yet either.
I feel like you go on to Chaser now at Seraph. What is he doing?
Tanky. Apollo also headshot Kane. They were getting locked up now, and the Mountain Drake's still going in. Someday going to get assaulted by Seraph, and you can just see the damage that's happening. Dig can't dilly-dally for too long here. Mountain Drake continues to change attention, but Lyra now maybe too far forward. Drake goes over. Lot actually gets it, but Chaser is going to get locked up. X-Special trying to get aggressive, but Seraph dives into the backline to tangle them up. Looks like Seraph actually going to keep going. Goes invulnerable for a little while longer, but Lod takes him down with the last few bullets. Envy, just such a messy fight. Now Apollo's just too far forward. He needs to get aggressive and try and get more shots in, but has to flash out of the Jin ulti cone. Someday Chrono breaks out, gets a bit more health back, and Keen's going to play cleanup. Dignitas play it so patient, and they're able to wipe the fight.
Dig, get the Drake, and they get the team fight. That's an ace for them. We'll see if they look at the Baron here, because that mid lane, they're just clearing it out for some pressure.
I mean, Dignitas, it's so funny to watch this team and think what's really been changed. And the Enigma's been trying to solve just where are they getting their leads, but statistically, things haven't changed that much. But whatever is happening synergistically for this team has been the big moment, because they are playing so well together. Every Dignitas team fight looks insane.
It's the comms, it's the communication, like you were saying, it's that synergy. And right there, they go back and forth on tanking it, they get themselves a Baron, and now they get themselves a gigantic lead off that fight.
And again, Envy just couldn't be decisive enough there in that moment. You need to do something else here.
Seraph's like trying to duel on the side when you had a perfect setup to stop Chaser from getting in. Envy shouldn't be wanting the fight. They should want the Drake, which will help them take turrets and help them get the Baron later. Whereas now Seraph's in the back line. Chaser's looking at Apollo. Someday is off on the right. And watch Apollo here. He can't figure out where he wants to go. He goes back and forth between two spots, takes a lot of damage from Keen, has to flash to the side. This gets ultied by Someday and actually just completely moot. And now Apollo's on a full HP Lod that has been in the backline the whole time. Still has heal. And that's just a big misplay there of the whole team, but also their primary carry. Apollo got a lot of damage there, but I also feel like there was more he could have done. The team is building around him. But I don't want to be like, just all on Apollo. He has the gold, so of course there's more responsibility there. But it's also on the whole team of, why wasn't this happening? Why wasn't Seraph stopping Chaser before that whole thing started? Because he had a prime position to do so. And then Chaser gets to get on the left side of the fight, and they get to pick up some traps, and then they get the Drake. That's actually pretty unacceptable for a team that was in the position that Envy was in.
Yeah, I mean, Envy just kind of fought the execution. They could have tried to kill Someday and force a 5v4. Could have just started the 4v4 team fight that Seraph zoned out for them, but Dignitas play it patient. They get the Drake, somehow Lord snipes it away, and now they've got Baron out of the deal. Didn't even need Chaser to get this one. Just picked up the ace, and now they're starting to knock down turrets. Dignitas opening up a big lead now, 4,000 gold ahead.
Dignitas are so good at playing reactively during the mid game. When we looked at them, even when they didn't have Cop in, they played best against teams that tried to engage onto them. And that Drake was just another prime example. They'll play these disengaged compositions. They were way ahead of the times with the Lulu pick very early on. And they love this style. They love playing things like the Azir and having Lot on this backliner that is just a disengaged champion, but also a little bit of an engage for himself.
I think that's one of the things for the top half of the map here for Dignitas. We don't get to talk about it that often because it's really hard to define and definitely even harder to quantify, but the league IQ and game awareness of Dignitas' Koreans is actually insane. Like, someday, top lane is one of those lanes that is dependent on so many little things going correctly for you time and time again. And again, someday might not be the flashiest player at all times, even though he can be very flashy, but the amount of things that Sunday's able to account for and then still execute on cleanly is one of the real reasons to me why he's such a good player. And Hako just forced a flash there.
Yep, now let's take some bullets.
This siege is very easy looking for Dig. They even reset with the redemption. Oh. Sunday dives in. Kill there for Ken onto the Kaelin as Apollo goes down. Azir going to pick up the double as Sunday going to reach forward out onto Seraph. Seraph just trying to get his way up, but he gets tangled up by a lot on the W, and that should be a kill. Seraph going to buy a little more time. But now this turret's under siege and Envy's base is starting to crumble.
Yep, as soon as Dignitas get that lead, that solid lead for themselves, nothing you can really do. Look at this.
King just commits the ultimate Someday. QSS is off the Nether Grasp. Inhibitor going to go down, and Dignitas aren't done. They're just going to go for the throat.
We're going to try to end the game here. Keen, 100% KP, 707 on this Azir. He set up a ton of those plays in the mid game and in that mid lane.
Second Nexus turret looking to go down. Ninja trying to buy more time. Keen is low. They're looking to protect him. Oh, I thought he
still got a turret. They still got a turret.
Oh, he gets shut down. Gets tagged by the other turret. Log going to go down as well. Shut down by Hakuo. Dig. Bit messy on the attempt there to try and finish the game. Envy will have a few more minutes to play with. Someday going to phase dive out. Already burnt his flash. No blast going to get to. Timeline is away, but sniped by Ninja. Envy get 3 needed kills there.
What's that saying? Everybody following a bad call makes it a good call. It's not true. Everybody on Dignitas was staying around trying to kill the base, trying to end the game. It looked like the call was end the game, but it's still 31 minutes in, and they weren't expecting those death timers to be that short. They kill Lyra and Apollo right off the bat here, and then they continue to chase Seraph. Turret goes down, and I feel like the rest of this is just overreaching. They get the inhib, and I think that's great. But then people are coming back up. Ninja's throwing Qs at them. They're all getting very low. And I feel like they forgot they had a mid lane turret still up from Envy's side.
I mean, we cut the replay off at the right point, and they're Dignitas looking good up until the point where they dove in and got themselves all killed. Envy did get the mid lane outer turret as a result, so Dignitas will still go up heavily on the Baron power play, almost 5,500 gold. But game gets delayed for a little while longer. Apollo does have 3 items building in towards his next one. We have the Ludens finish for Ninja and the Death Cap on the way. Like, Envy can maybe win some of these team fights if Dignitas are caught slipping one more time. So Dig would have liked to finish the game there. Instead, play a little sloppy. I'm going to have to win one more fight.
Yeah, and we'll see right here what happens because it's a Mountain Drake coming up. Posture for Dignitas, but the bottom lane's already shoved out by Envy, so there's a possibility they could contest it, but it looks like they don't want to. It looks like they are finally saying, you know what, you're stronger than us right now, we'll wait, which has not been what they've been saying all game.
Well, I think probably the right move because Keen in particular is incredibly strong on Azir. 4 items already done. I mean, he's actually pretty much full build. Probably going to eventually get a Mercurial because might as well get some bonus stats there, but as far as damage output goes, Keen's ready to go, and he's got that QSS. Unless he wants to sell his boots, he's done.
And Apollo just checking in on that gold lead that he had. About 60 CS up. And there's his Lord Dominic's regards, so he's at 4 items as well. No double attack speed here, went for the full combination on the Lord Dominic's regards.
Happens for his final item though. Again, like, Envy have the tools to win a late game team fight, but the way Dignitas have been playing the fights, if you just disregard compositions, which I think Envy are at least even with, Dig have shown so much strength in a 5v5, and Envy flounder when they have 10,000 gold leads.
Yeah.
Right? And they weren't that far ahead in this mid-game.
Yeah, it's only a 3,000 gold lead right now. It's been brought back a little bit. Seraph's picked up a lot of farm on the bottom side. He's up 50 himself. And a lot of this gold, though, for Dignitas is on Keen in the mid lane. So if they find a way to actually obliterate Keen and he misplays or something along those lines, I know I hate being like, oh, if he doesn't play it perfectly, then you know what could happen. Like, basically anything could happen here. I still think it's up in the air. Dignitas heavy advantage right now. But I would say Envy still have a way to win.
Yeah, Keen's got a big fortress to hide behind, though. I mean, Someday and Chaser got some disengaged tools, able to zone out any divers, and we've also got the Lulu to protect Azir, who really is the more traditional-looking carry of the two that Dignitas have picked. Someday is going to stay up here in the top lane and continue to pressure down the turrets, but Baron is up in a second, and Dignitas going to get straight on it.
Yeah, 2 Mountain Drakes and an Azir. This will go down very quickly, and Laud will probably crit it for more than you could smite it for if he gets that bullet, but it looks like it's going down.
Got it now. That's Baron over. Hakuo looking for a pick, but he's going to get himself caught out. Has to flash out for the Wild Growth, gets the double knock up there. Someday just tying up the backline as Keen already slayed Hakuo, and the board's going to fire down. The hill gets burnt, but Someday just buying time for the rest of his team. Seraph might be able to get a kill here, but the rest of the team's going to dive in for it. Chaser gets his way back through. Lyra gets tagged by the Deadly Flourish. Chaser is going to get his GA burnt down, but Lyra is bleeding on the back end of the fight. Dignitas only got 1 kill, but they still have Baron.
Yep. 1 kill goes over to Dignitas. They do get the Baron. Someday has teleport, so he'll TP back into this, continue the siege, use this time.
Oh, this turret's absolutely dead. Someday going to make his way back down as Dignitas will keep sieging. Remember, that bot inhib is still there, so super minion pressure will also push forward.
Yep, they don't have setup time. Going in the back.
Someday diving in again. Pops the Zhonya's just to buy a bit more time for the siege. Apollo just trying to kite them out, but Someday ulti's on the spot for a good amount of health. Damage, though, is just massive as Lord crits Ninja to death. And Apollo just firing back, but he just can't find the right targets here.
But he does so much damage when he is able to fire. He just doesn't have that gigantic front line. I mean, Lyra even tried to go as tanky as a Rek'Sai as I've seen pretty much all year. You go straight for no Tiamat item. You go Cinder Hulk. He is also Courage with the Colossus, but it's still not tanky enough here. And that's what Someday is doing, is making sure Apollo can't do anything in this fight. Jumps in, and he's just zoning Apollo as an assassin, as a carry threat. So Apollo has to back up, try to get some shots in there, and then Chaser is taking a large amount of damage in this choke point here. But you can see Lyra is just taking crits from Laud, he's taking soldier damage from Keen, and now they don't have that frontliner anymore.
Yeah, well, bottom lane inhibs back up, but Someday going to check that brush as Dignitas still with 1:45 left on the Baron, going to tear down mid lane. Envy need to pull the trigger sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you see that, and it's like Apollo, he could do more, but the rest of his guys are not threats. They're just not doing enough damage, and Haku is getting caught off on the side. You're seeing Lyra out of position, and Ninja and Seraph both aren't really finding the best ways to get their characters or their champions to actually synergize with the team. We're not seeing the true backline dive from Seraph at the same time that Ninja is empowering Apollo.
Yeah, and credit to Dick. They're finding really creative ways into the backline to split up these fights so Envy can't play up front to back. So
great point, yeah. So, Someday, definitely that flank, huge part of that. He didn't have to use teleport to get in. He just found his way in. And that's what Seraph should be looking for. And he'll eat a lot of spells. He'll actually have to soak up a bunch of things like the Whimsy, etc. But if Keen is walling one way and not the other, or there's a Whimsy being used there, it's not being used on these other guys. So you have to kind of take that for what it's worth as a diver.
Baron Cannon just working a little bit harder. Try and get this turret. Only one more shot should do it. Oh, the minion's going to tie it up at Lod. Just hits it with a rapid fire cannon bullet. Now Dignitas have got 10 turrets killed. Only one left actually protecting that Nexus. Envy are going to make one final stand. Might be waiting for Baron buff, but that's 25 seconds I don't think they have left. Hakuo shredded down by Keen, and that's Someday straight onto the inhib.
Keen still 100% kill participation. Game has been revolving around that mid lane and him making plays. Very brave Azir plays that I've been seeing from him. He's been diving in when he needs to, and he's been staying really far back during these fights.
Yeah, one blemish on the record is Someday and Seraph fighting. Seraph should be able to win this 1v1, but Someday just buying time. He's still got Chrono Break, makes his way back in, but Seraph just wants to finish him off. Unfortunately, Lod is going to now chase down Seraph. That bullet's going to follow him all the way home, but Dignitas busy winning the game instead. They took out the inhib. Chase is going to dive in. The Wild Goat's going to keep him alive, and they'll just slam down the Nexus. The NV trying to fight out, but Dignitas take game number 1.
39 minutes on the dot for them. Set up in that mid lane, set up with Keen, and then it just spreads all around. That first kill bottom from Chaser set them behind, but they found themselves in this game, even for a large portion of it, but they took those team fights.
And again, we looked at Apollo saying he's set up to try and carry this game, and sure, there wasn't a huge overall advantage for the team. It's not like they were, 5, 6, 7,000 gold ahead, but things were set up well. Envy, I think, wanted to play it slow and try and siege down turrets and build up a lead that way. Unfortunately for them, Dignitas picked their moments exceptionally well, and the individual play was able to shine, and that's a lot of the Dignitas games we've been seeing. They kind of weather the storm from Envy. They expect to be really put down in the early game because Envy are an aggressive, strong team in the first 15, but Dignitas, it's hard to explain it, but they keep winning.
Yeah, they actually are doing a really good job of coordinating the fights. And I think that's really what my big takeaway is. Watching their team fights now compared to before, they're actually going in and out at the right time. Someday is crashing at the same time as the rest of his team is going in, and Chaser is finding ways to delay the fight, especially around objectives, until he's in a good position to go for a smite. So the team is allowing setup, and they aren't having one person be like, it's time to go now, when people aren't ready.
Well, we do have a couple, one replay, I believe, to look at here, so we'll kind of break down how this game worked out. I mean, this was probably one of the pivotal fights, actually, in the game.
Chaser just got to walk past the top side of this where Seraph was, didn't get engaged on, didn't get anything to stop him. And that's unacceptable as Seraph tries to dive the back line. That's right, he should be doing that. But I feel like they should have stopped Chaser, and they should have gone for a hard dragon commit there, because there was moments right before this fight where you could have gone for it. Apollo doesn't get as much out of this fight as he would like. And then the rest of it is just Law gets to walk up, and now he gets to duel Apollo, and he gets to kill him one-on-one, because he already took so much damage from being indecisive in that middle part of the game. And I like looking at this because the Karma did about as much damage as you would kind of expect of a mid lane supporting Karma up against Nazir, who did about 1,000 damage per minute. Keen was destroying this game. This game was even in terms of the gold for a very large portion, as you can see, until about 25 minutes. And then it was those team fights, that Drake, that Baron that got picked up. And I feel as though Keen is definitely the highlight star of this one.
And you can see the hiccup where Dignitas overreached and got themselves caught out in the base, but that really just delayed the game. I mean, Envy might have had some opportunities, but Dignitas did the right thing, never giving them back over, and it's hard to say. I mean, credit to Dignitas for playing well. Those were very difficult fights to play, but the amount of disruption that Someday put out, the positioning of Keen to deal maximum damage, and just Chaser making sure he always had the right targets down lockdown, and then the bottom one was playing very safe to kind of clean up or start the fight depending on what they needed. Like, really cool comp from Dig, and they played it exceptionally well, but part of it also does feel like Envy could have made slightly better decisions.
Yeah, in that damage, you saw that even though Apollo got like an early lead, Lod still out-damaged him by about 1,000. It's not much, but it's still something that you have to consider when you look at somebody who had a really good early lead. They could have gone to other lanes. The team could have rotated him around. The team could have used him better. And the teams are going to stylistically play fights the same. Your top laner is going to dive. Your junglers are both of your tanks. Your mid laners, that's where the difference is, where the Keen on the Azir is going to do more damage, but the 80 carry assist from the Karma should be how you actually get your edge in that fight. Because you had a Caitlyn that had a lead. Both your supports are also lock-up, too, for those backline divers. So Hakuo should be looking at Someday, and Xpecial should be looking at Seraph to lock him down. So these fights, I say, like, it's much harder for one to execute than the other, but, like, if all things are considered even, they are both equally hard to do, but it's just the execution has to be on.
Certainly not even in execution. Well, we're going to step away for a quick break, but when we come back, it's game 2 between Team Dignitas and Envy. Stay with us. You're watching the North American LCS.
Before, I would have said Envy's just like a free win, but I think their jungler is really good, and their bot lane is underrated. Hakuo is a good support. From playing with him before, I know that he's a really good laner, and he mostly knows what he's doing. I feel like their bot lane and their jungler is the biggest strength. It seems like their top lane is pretty bad. I think Seraph is trash. And then Ninja, he can be good, but like he throws games a lot. Like, it almost feels like versus Envy, even if they get a lead, you'll probably still win because they'll just like mess up a team fight or something. That's how I felt last split as well. So
Settle down, boys.
Clan initiation.
I won't settle down, Kobe.
7,000 moves
It's
to beat
OP.
Kog'Maw. It's happening.